You're all set.
Okay. Alright. To celebrate my last pro-timing of our training committee meeting, I'm gonna have us start by going around and sharing a word about how they're feeling today. In true social worker fashion. I'm feeling tired. How are you feeling, Charles?
I am feeling scattered. Today has been a crazy day. I was at work, and I was at Progressive Field, and I was home. Now I'm here. So, but no, I'm good.
I'm glad you're
Just all over the place.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan? How are you feeling today?
I feel that, I don't know, I've been thinking about some of the work we've been working on for a while, and I think I kind of was able to kind of have a bit of mental clarity on some things that I think might be helpful, though it's been frustrating about some things. Like that would be the best way to describe it. I'm optimistic for nicer weather, though.
That's great. I'm trying to take your time. We're just going around saying how we feel. Just to celebrate my last meeting as pro-tem. I'm making everybody talk about their feelings. How are you feeling today, Jim?
I feel fantastic.
Oh, wonderful.
Beautiful day out there.
You're feeling better?
Feeling much better.
Okay. So happy. How are you feeling today, Brianna?
Cool. I made it. I'm here. You know, it's getting nice outside. Let me tell you one thing I'm happy about. I cut my grass.
Yay!
It was high, and I know that's some as a homeowner that
You gotta celebrate.
Yes, like I can have a drink because my lawnmower was broke. And so
It's
like
so
we
hard
had
to
to get
fix
one.
it. How do you fix it?
I just had to get a new one
Yeah.
because I don't know. Yeah, so I got a new one, and it was like it's electric. I did an electric one. Said Planet. But it was a high quality electric one. Like it cut the grass. Like once I figured it out, I'm not even gonna lie, because it was new, so I had to have these two guys help me. Well, there was having two guys be there. They helped me, and then it was all good.
I'm so proud. Great job.
Those electric ones are really quiet. I mean,
Yeah.
Right down the street has one. It's like it's out there.
Yeah,
It's just like a kid playing.
Yeah. So that's how it was. But like sometimes I don't. Well, my last one didn't cut. I felt like as good as the gas one, but this one was like a quality one. I felt like So it had like a speed thing from like minimum to maximum. Yeah, I was just like it had like a gear that you put to make it go faster. I was like, oh, they just really upgraded this.
Yeah, look at you.
So,
Mine's just a push.
yeah. I was just like, oh.
Well, something that I'm proud of is I've been more consistent with exercise in the last year than I ever have. I've been boxing and weightlifting, and the last 3 days I've gone on runs, and I'm really
Good for you.
Yeah, because
I don't know about running.
I'm not big on cardio. Like I would rather boxing is cardio for sure, but
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You might need that in the
Take out all your
future too.
frustration.
Right.
You can put somebody's picture on the back that you don't like. That.
there you go. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm proud of.
For
Jason, how
mental
you?
health, huh?
Yeah. Jason, how are you feeling today?
Busy.
Yeah. How about you, Lou?
Well, not that yet, and just came back from housing conference, so
And was it good?
yeah,
Yeah.
2 days in Columbus.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for indulging me in my social work meeting habit. So we're gonna open the meeting, welcome, call to order, and roll call. I will start roll call. Jim Chura,
Present.
Adriana Rodriguez,
Present.
Charles Donaldson,
Present.
and I, Chandra Benito, Chair Pro Tem and Present. I have sent out the agenda. Are there any changes people wanted to make to the agenda? Great. Hearing none, I am really happy to put forward a motion to elect Charles Donaldson as the training committee chair.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
The only thing I'll add is I would ask that you run this meeting if I am moved forward, and I will take over at the next training meeting.
I'm happy to continue to run this meeting. No problems there. All right. Let's call for the vote. Charles,
I.
That would have been awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna abstain, but
I should probably be using people's last names. Commissioner Turin,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and I, Commissioner Benito, vote aye. So the motion passes. All right, congratulations, Chair Donaldson. You are going to do a fantastic job, and I look forward to being under your leadership. All right, you guys are stuck with me for one more meeting. So let's move to public comment. Any public comment?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. We'll loop back to you, Lou. Okay, so moving into old business. So we have the reality-based scenario training community event. And I believe Charles has an update about dates.
yes. So we are looking at planning our second training community event. The first one was in November, December.
What's the Christmas?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was November, December. I don't know. Anyway, but it was towards the end of last year, so we wanted to do that again. We did receive a potential date, and I asked for Commander Magoof to send us a couple more dates, just because the date we received initially was about 7 weeks out, and so I know after the last event, we wanted to give ourselves and the community more time to kind of get it on their calendars and, plan to attend. So the last I heard is that he's going to go back and ask for some more dates. So hopefully we'll be able to find a date in maybe July or August. And yeah, that's it.
Great, and then we also will have a couple, we have the, they're working on, there's a surveillance tech community event. There's gonna be, at some point soon here, the commanders community event, and then we are also planning a vehicle pursuits community event. So there's gonna be a lot of events over the next couple months. I think it's a good idea to kind of push this one back. So thank you so much.
What was the
Commissioner
potential,
Donaldson?
what was the potential thing?
So the date we were sent initially was June 22nd.
But we're looking at more dates for the fall, right?
Correct. So I requested if we could get dates for July or maybe August.
And Co-Chair Adams said that once we have the date, he's gonna work with the school district to come up with an allocation. So, okay, great. So the next thing, and also I forgot to mention, Commander Magoo sent an email. He's sick today. There's been a lot of stuff going around, so it's all hope for a speedy recovery for him and all other of our friends and loved ones who are sick. And but he said that he would follow up with us on anything, so we can, that can be your first job as chair, is to reach out to him to get him caught up. So the next thing is the bias-free policing joint work group. So for those of you who might be listening, we are working with the policy committee to do a joint work group on bias-free policing, looking at both the bias-free policing policy and bias-free policing training. We are just getting now we have the GPO, we have some materials that Captain Simon sent, and then I can't remember, I think that Magoo sent the bias-free policing training already. Yeah, he did, the lesson plan, yeah. So we have that, and so those would be some of the things that we start with. So the question becomes, who from our committee wants to be on that work group? You do? Okay, great.
And I just have a question. So will this meet 17A of the consent decree about just reviewing the policing policies, practices, and training and make a recommendation? Okay.
Sure would. Great, so we have Adriana. Is anyone else interested? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, I can join.
Great, cool. Okay, excellent. So that will be, I'll send an email to some of the folks from, I'll update the policy committee that you guys will be our representatives.
Do you know when they're meeting?
Nothing's been scheduled yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, I might, I'll talk to our policy meeting. should be next week, next Wednesday. So I can check in with him, right? Is it next Wednesday? Yeah. So I can, I'll bring up that you guys are gonna be our representatives and then once we figure out who from the policy committee will be on it, then I'll make sure there's an email to get the ball rolling. So, thank you guys so much for volunteering. One thing I would just suggest is, I'll make sure that did you guys receive the bias-free policing, not the training, but the GPO?
Let me double check.
I don't know if it was sent to everybody or just, okay, no. So I'll forward this to you
Okay.
so that you guys can have that. Okay. I've just sent it to you right now. Okay, great. So yeah, we just start by looking through the curriculum and the bias-free policing GPO, and you should be in pretty good position to get started. Okay, anything else on the bias-free policing joint work group? I think we should discuss. Okay, moving on to new business. We are already 30 minutes ahead of schedule. So, did everyone have the opportunity to review the dispatch training? Cool. So, the behavioral health work group that's under the policy committee met yesterday and discussed training. They felt like it was a really good training. There was a lot of questions that came up and concerns that were brought up about some negative experiences that people have had with dispatch and about questions about dispatch policies around referring to other organizations. So you might remember in the training, it talked about like 988, it talked about Frontline Mobile Crisis, it talked about MRSS, and those are all programs that, there's no guidelines about referring callers to this. So right now, if someone calls and asks for service, dispatch is pretty much all of the time sending someone, even if maybe another service might be more applicable. There is plans with the Care Response pilot to embed, I know there's a plan to embed a clinician at dispatch who would then help kind of screen callers to determine who would be potentially a match for Care Response or to help kind of coordinate the crisis response. And so I think that's going to dispatch actually referring people away from the police and into other more appropriate programs is going to be a really important part of kind of the dispatch care response, I think crisis response program here. But we're just going to have to wait to see, or if we don't have to, but I think right now the plan is to wait and see how that gets implemented. And that might be something that we might want to look at as a commission. But some of the concerns that were brought up were about just how dispatch treats callers who call in. Some of the folks talked about themselves having negative experiences with dispatchers. Calling, like one person talked about calling in because of a shooting coming in, and dispatch like being mad that they didn't have more information, and they're like, I'm just in my house, it's 3 a.m. I heard gunshots, I don't have any other information. And just some of the kind of like negative experiences that they feel like a lot of people report having, especially people in crisis. So I think that there's a lot we could dig into there. I think the commission kind of has a lot on its plate right now, but I do think that dispatch is an area we should probably look at some point once we are a little further in and maybe more functional. So yeah, but that group basically said they thought the training was really good and they didn't think that they didn't propose any changes. So were there any changes you guys wanted to propose or questions you had about it?
Yes, through the chair, I just needed a refresh on exactly what the training was like. Well, I guess I can start my first question. So is this meant to be a refresh or is this a training that they're already receiving?
Okay, so good question. This is a training for all dispatchers that is just on kind of like mental health, crisis, de-escalation, skills. So this isn't, they are now sending a couple dispatchers each session to CIT, the CIT training. So we do have dispatchers who are going through the CIT training. This is just meant to be kind of a standard mental health crisis response training for all dispatchers. It seems like they do a training like this every couple years. It's not clear. The last time it sounds like they did this was about 2 or 3 years ago. So
Okay, and that answers my other question. I was going to ask how often the training was completed. But so this one here is brand new, or it's kind of in some ways already been done, but it's just put together as a new package, I guess.
it's my understanding.
Okay, and then is it going to be virtual or in person? Do we know that?
I believe in person.
Okay, and then the
But
other.
don't quote me on that.
No, understood.
I'm on video.
And then I was also wondering if there's a plan to confirm kind of understanding, like how after you go through the training, how will we know, are there evaluations or like confirmation of understanding? Not necessarily an assessment, but just some way of knowing that the training actually got through. That's something I'm just curious to know more about.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
So my question is if it's gonna be I don't know if it's an evaluation or just a simple question to ask them, what do they feel can be enhanced in like the process, right? Because they're going through it. So they might have an idea or they might have a policy or something that they feel like, oh, this is acting as a barrier. And we feel like that would be able to help just in general as well as providing the training.
The Adams board put this together, and my guess is that they do have some sort of evaluation that they'll do after. I just don't know about it, so I can definitely follow up on that.
Other than that, though, I think it was a good training. The one thing that I did note, I was at the care response meeting, and I remember dispatch coming up at that meeting. And when I looked through the training, I recall those negative encounters that people talked about, and I felt like the training addressed some of those points. So I did feel like that was a good thing to see the training covering those topics as well.
Great. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve this and send it to the full commission for approval?
I move that we send the CPD dispatch instructor manual training to the full commission on, was it May 22nd for approval at the next full commission meeting.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's call for the vote. Commissioner Donaldson,
Aye.
Commissioner Chura,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and Commissioner Benito. I vote aye. The motion carries. Chair Donaldson, do you want to send this to the co-chairs to include on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, I would do that.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so the last item under new business today is the travel and training request GPO. So this is one of the GPOs that was sent to the policy committee, and we're going to help out by going through it. So this GPO creates procedures for when officers are training and taking training. So part of this covers a lot of different types of training. So it includes things like when they're taking OPADA training, when they're taking official trainings, and also when they're taking training that they have themselves found. So I figured we could go through this, and then I had a conversation with Executive Director Goodrick, and one of the things that has been brought up when it comes to officers taking trainings is that there are some training programs that don't, that maybe teach things that go outside of best practices and outside of some of the constitutional bias-free policing that we are looking to implement in Cleveland. And so there's some questions about how do we make sure that officers aren't taking training that are in conflict with the, GPOs and requirements of the division, and also that might go against the requirements of the consent decree. So I think Executive Director Goodrich, do you want to kind of share anything about that?
So the reason I recommended to Commissioner Van Leer to hold this policy review and then send it over to training instead of just advancing it through policy was because there was a DN from the chief prohibiting people on the division from attending training put on by a certain company. That company was in the news for, putting out junk science related to use of force and all kinds of stuff. In fact, the DN said, if you have gone to one of these trainings, you may need to be retrained through our academy. We have heard this over the years from community members about what's called third-party training, right? So these are, any former officer and some of his friends or her friends can start a company, call themselves experts in policing and promote trainings. And I've seen several come through the Cleveland area that are very questionable and definitely don't comport with the consent decree. There have been other trainings from places like Force Science Institute where we've heard community members express concerns about. So when this GPO came, I thought it was great, except it didn't acknowledge the DN. So if you're going to do training requests, there should be something in here, in my opinion, about the criteria for the training. And if there's a prohibited list of trainers, it should be probably in this DN so people know in advance. So it's the only thing I saw that was missing. Otherwise, it's a simple logistical process. But since we are saying that there are third parties out there that that you shouldn't go to, and if you did go to, you may need to be retrained. We need to do a comprehensive dive into. That was just one that they identified. There are many others. So I think we should look at that and then establish some criteria for in this GPO of when an officer should, be aware of that or how, or what the process is for evaluating those training requests. Because there are so many companies out there now. So what is good and what is bad? If you want to be officially sponsored by the division to go to the training. So that was my concern about this, is they didn't mention that DN, which I think I sent you a copy of, so it's available to forward to.
Do you want to print that, Dan?
Yeah, we can print that. I'll print it.
So I think that one thing I'm wondering is I wonder if there's a list somewhere of some of these different training organizations.
We could search, and we can have Ryan do a search.
Yeah.
And see if open source what we can find on banned or prohibited trainings, by other departments, and see.
Yeah.
Especially in consent decree cities that have these issues. So
Yeah.
you can't receive training from the division and then go to training that
Conflicts with that.
right?
So I think that my goal for this discussion today is to talk through what are some of the things that we need to be able to alter this. I mean, because, unless my reading is this was pretty straightforward. In terms of, I'm not sure that a lot of things need to be changed from this, but I do think that we should have something that acknowledges, at the very least, that one DN. And also, I think that, I think it would make sense if the CBC were to, keep a list of organizations or some of these trainings that we don't feel comfortable with our officers going to. At least, being paid to go to and having our cost reimbursed. So, Ryan, if you could, I think my goal is for us to discuss that today, and then maybe at the next meeting, try to have some language drafted to then alter this, and then aim to have it approved potentially at the. Jason? Did they say when they wanted this one done?
I'll pull up the tracker and see if they had a time on it.
Okay, that, I think that we should be able to kind of do something with this in about a month or so. So, Jim, as our friendly neighborhood retired CDP officer, what do you think about that?
Well, I think, I never really came across anything like that before, but like the director said, there's probably so many different training organizations out there that it shouldn't be too hard to find out which ones are legit, and which ones are fly by night.
Yeah.
Might be teaching something different. But yeah, I think they have to probably have a list, you know.
Because one approach we could take is we could say the CPC is going to maintain a list of prohibited agencies or like prohibited training.
Training organization.
Yeah, training organizations. And so instead of having to then list every single one in the GPO, we could maintain a list and we could say that they can't sponsor training to any of those. So we can add, and we'd have to notify them that an organization has been added. That could be one way that we do that, or we just put it jointly in the
Well,
GPO.
you know, it seems like the division is already sorting this out, right?
Right.
So maybe let them continue.
I think it's better to just have some criteria instead of naming organizations, because those are going to change all the time. You just say, these are the criteria that an agency must meet. They must be accredited, they must have, whatever, and if it's questionable, they should submit that with their training request, right, for review by the academy staff to make sure that it's in line, right? But you should specifically mention things that are banned, like this is called street cop training, so I'll print it out. This is the
What's it called?
street cop training, that's the one that's banned right now.
So, what do we think some of that criteria could be? I think accredited.
And actually,
Go ahead.
just kind of cursory looking up, bad third-party police training. The first thing that just came up in this article from back in just on March this year, street cop training filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy because so many police departments will no longer work with them. But that doesn't mean, to Jason's point though, that they will necessarily go away. They're filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, no.
They reopen under some other generic, super generic sounding name and just. So, yeah.
Avenue cop training.
Yeah.
So I'm forwarding it to you, and I'll print it, but I'm forwarding it now, so.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's something out there that happened pop up. I didn't.
Yeah, like Force Science Institute is another one that's very controversial.
Yeah. So accredited? Who would they be accredited by?
Might be chiefs of police associations, things like that.
So accredited would be one. What would be another criteria?
One of the things I'm wondering, just from my knowledge, because I'm not sure how this process works, but are we talking just an officer just going to a training solo, or is this like a group of people going to a training? Is it you just finding a training on your own and asking to go? Like, I just wanted to get maybe a better understanding of how this would typically work before it got approved.
I think my understanding is that this is for when officers see a training and they're like, I want to go to this training. And then they submit a request to the CDP with, like, if they're asking CDP to reimburse for the registration or other travel requirements. Now, I think that we could also say that the city can't contract, the division can't contract with those folks to provide training. But I think under the consent decree, that's not really as much of an issue. Because all training that CDP goes through right now has to be approved by the DOJ and the monitoring team. So I don't think that would be,
In regards to, officers going to training, it could be a whole group, like, sometimes like, instructors at the range. They'll all kind of attend the same training, sometimes, out of state at different shooting schools, things like that.
Okay.
Reviewing different techniques, and I'll bring that back and see if it meshes with ours.
Oh, okay. Now that makes more
It
sense.
could be,
to
it could
me.
be
Okay.
motorcycle training, sometimes they'll send guys out to the West Coast if they're gonna instruct how to ride a motorcycle, they might do that. I've seen that done, with these dirt bikes and things like that, they actually had some officers attend some training on how to ride a dirt bike.
Interesting, yeah.
You have to, pursue them. So it could be about anything, but a lone officer could, apply for, whatever he wants, and then, hopefully it'll go through. I mean, I've gone to some training where I, pay for it myself, and you just give me a tour of duty on it, if you're really motivated. A lot of officers, if they want to go to a specialized unit, they might, take some training like in homicide investigation, vice, narcotics, whatever. So, people that, want to really improve themselves, it's always good to, hopefully help them along.
And this,
Thank you.
go ahead.
No, I was just, my follow-up to that was going to be, I wonder if we could get a list or something, or an idea of trainings that have been approved in the past, just so we'll have an idea of like what this typically is.
Good question.
Yeah, we could work with Mark McGuth on this to come up with the criteria and tell them our concern, and I'm certain that they could come up with, help you with this to get it done really quickly.
Yeah.
This, just reviewing this again, it looks like, this is for individual members. I guess it would be member with an S, so it could be a small group of people. But basically, it's if you self-identified training that isn't OPATA or high-intensity drug traffic area training, which are both through the state and already sanctioned, right? So those have a different process. This is anything you find and you would like to attend, and if it requires reimbursement for travel or whatever, it looks like you can request that, but it doesn't, again, my concern was it doesn't have criteria for evaluating the training itself to be compliant with. It just says discretionary
Yeah.
based on this review committee, the Travel and Training Review Committee. However, I think you have an opportunity to put some criteria or exclusions that where they can never approve under certain conditions. So should be quick to figure that out. You can have a conversation with Mark McGuth about it, and I'm sure they could already help you come up with a short list of criteria.
If you guys would like, I'd be happy to follow up with Commander McGuth and work with him on this, and then submit. I can send some draft language to Jason for feedback and to the committee for feedback, and then try to have something for next month. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. I guess one thing that's not on the agenda is we're about at the time where we would want to start looking at next year's needs assessment, the 2025 needs assessment. So it might make sense for you, Chair Donaldson, to set up a meeting with Commander McGuth to talk about that. And one of the things that we talked about when I met with him last was actually developing some processes for when we get training, doing kind of what we've done with some GPOs, which is just sending it out in a SurveyMonkey, the training document, and just soliciting feedback from the community, and giving people the opportunity to submit feedback. And he was really open to that, so I think that would be another thing that for us to maybe set up kind of a procedure around that.
When does this have to be completed again? When's the deadline?
For which?
The
needs assessment?
I'm sorry, I thought we.
I think they're just in the planning stages right now.
Okay.
So it usually, I think, done probably like completed by over the summer. Yeah. Anything else? Great. Let's action item. So my action item is, I'm gonna get with Commander McGuth on this, draft some language, send it out to everybody, and workshop that before our next meeting. Other action items are, Chair Donaldson and, Commissioner Rodriguez are gonna be the training committee members, on the, joint bias-free policing work group. We have, Chair Donaldson also had something else that's facing my mind.
The training.
The dispatch training,
Great, yeah.
getting that added to the agenda
Perfect.
and sent out to the commission.
Great. Any action items? Oh, and then Ryan has a couple, doing some research on,
On the whole, the status of outside training, third party training.
excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Lou, do you have any public comment?
No, you could sit and use the mic there.
Okay. I will remind all commissioners, due to the technology, due to the community needs, right now commission definitely will pay more attention to their trainings. However, lots of trainings in the past, even they had them, either they didn't have a good system to go with it, so they may have the name of the training, but not every batch of the trainees actually got the same thing. And also the disciplines applied to the actions from these trainings may not be fair either. So I hope that all of you will pay more attention on the existing rules, GPO, whatever you want to call it, and probably you really have to go through all theirs to find out if there's anything missing, because some of the training could be new to them, brand new, so there's no old rules. So commission should do that from scratch, make sure they have a good way to follow the work they need to do on the training. But please also pay attention to the old ones, because some of them could have outdated language, or itself was copy and paste, this and that, so very flawed. So this will take some time to work through, but I wish the commission will pay attention about all these things in details. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lou. Congratulations to our new training committee chair, Chair Donaldson. And
Yay!
with that, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.